This shot was taken shortly after we boarded Queen Victoria. We are about to begin our voyage by sailing down the Solent. The ship across there is P&O's Arvia. A day at sea, and then we were docked off Newhaven, the port for Edinburgh. This was one of those ports where we had to go ashore using the ship's lifeboats. Ruth found it an uncomfortable experience. This is Newhaven, just enough water at this state of the tide. We went one stop on the tram in order to get to the royal yacht Britannia. From the deck of the royal yacht, we had a good view of our own ship. The Queen's bedroom. The state dining room. And the Queen's private quarters. Some of our fellow passengers had a more comfortable ride back to the ship in this vessel. Late evening, we set sail for the Orkney Islands. I had booked the Prehistoric Wonders of Orkney tour, which left the ship at 8 in the morning.
The entirety of the Loch of Ness. Now, for those of you on the left, there's another World War II pillbox up on top of the ridge there in case you're cattle farming. After that, it's sheep, again for the meat, and then dairy farming. There are some crops grown here in Orkney, and you can see these sort of light golden sort of coloured fields. This is the second largest crop grown in Orkney, which is barley.
The prehistoric village of Skara Brae is approached down a path alongside which are these time markers. The houses were connected by this pathway, which in its time would have been covered over against the elements. This is a reconstruction of one of the prehistoric houses. We reboarded our coach to drive the 5 miles to this second stop on our tour.
I think there were originally possibly 11 stones in the circle here, 4 still standing today. Another feature about this stone circle is there's a hearth in the middle, a huge square stone hearth. It's got a ditched enclosure around the outside of it. You can see Mace Howe very enigmatic in the field on the left here. We are just about...
We returned to the ship and I had lunch with Ruth before taking the shuttle bus in the afternoon to have a look around Kirkwall. This is the Costa Favolosa. Her passengers had to come ashore by tender. The next day was spent at sea. From Greenock, I took an excursion to Stirling Castle.
Mary, Queen of Scots, when she lived there as a little girl, her mother. And they'll tell you who they are. King and Queen that have sat up on the up on the little platform. Look at that higher up in everything else. With these big windows, so when the light shone in on them.
Some of the rooms in the castle have been restored to how they would have been in their heyday.
The tree. That makes sense, isn't it? Now, if we take another wee look at this fellow, he's got a lovely white coat, which represents purity. We've already said he performed stories about unicorn. He is a magical creature whose fabulous horn dipped into water will purify that water and make it safe to drink. We don't have a unicorn in Stirling, don't drink the water. I'm very sad to you that these fancy young fellas in their bright coloured clothes and their feathers and whatnot go out for afternoon. It's a pleasure. I was going to show you a little bit of it.
The three geese, one there or two.
Which was only
The Stirling heads, the bosses in the ceiling, have been restored, and this exhibit shows how the job was done.
The original one is now in the National Museum, but this is a replica. So it's quite small. And you also have a kids one. So this one is actually just made out of straw, which keeps coming out. So,
Pues deja de hacer la coña, como tengo que ser básica.
So you can probably even talk in.
possibly Tobermory. The Tobermory lifeboat was exercising in the vicinity of our ship. The National Trust lays on a minibus to take passengers from the visitor centre down to sea level.
Breaks off and nice. You've been get started? No. That was something I've been.
Back at the visitor centre for refreshments.
So now we're going to come down onto the coast. We're just going to drive a little bit along the coast, but you're going to see some of it. This island that you can see sort of in the misty in the background there on the left hand side, that's Rathlin Island, and it's the only inhabited island in Northern Ireland. There's about 140 people live on that island. It's Dunsbury Castle, and that was one of the castles from the there was 4 kingdoms, the 4 provinces in Ireland, and this was at one time the castle for the kingdom of Ulster. It looks really calm, the water, doesn't it? Yeah. This town is where the Game of Thrones was filmed down there is Ballintoy Harbour, this Ballintoy village. And the Vikings were on the way over because straight ahead is you have to move. We're not allowed in on the bus. You have to push it. You have to pay to go across.
Oh, there. Oh, I could go there.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, my first time.
Before our coach returned us to the ship, we did a brief tour of Belfast City.
You got the statue outside the entrance. This is for people, students and lecturers that perished in the Second World War. 3 hotels in Belfast, and that was the best. So if you were anybody or a journalist or a politician, you had to stay in the hotel, and that was why they bombed it so many times. At night, we're ferried over on this little boat The two most famous men on the Titanic probably used this little boat, and that was Benjamin Guggenheim and John Jacob Astor. They were both buried across in this little boat. That little boat sat outside the Eiffel Tower for years and years. And when Belfast became, after the peace process, when they decided Titanic was going to be the theme, they bought this little boat and trailed it, towed it back. 100-year anniversary of the Titanic. And this is the actual slipways. Behind the building on the other side is where the slipways were, where the Titanic and the Olympic were built side by side.
The entertainment coming aboard. Rather rainy in Liverpool, so our trip ashore was quite short. We had been to Cove once before on a trip which eventually took us to Iceland.
This is an incredible live rock and roll concert experience featuring all the very best songs.
We took an excursion to Youghal and Lismore.
Because if they do honours, maths, they get an extra 25%. So the people...
The film Moby Dick was apparently filmed in Youghal. A quick sight of Lismore Castle as we drove past.
About 35 minutes here and show you the good views. There's a nice cafe somewhere along there beside the bank. A couple of other cafes.
We were given a right royal send-off from Cove. last day at sea, so let's have a look at the ship. This is the self-service dining room. The library. The main atrium.
Yeah.
The Royal Court Theatre. The Red Lion Pub. The casino. And so our cruise drew to a close.